Now, let's talk about this. It's a hot topic, and unfortunately, it's a topic we really don't want to be covering in this day and age, and we still do, and that's racism. We heard the sort of cry from Danny Rose, which was just shocking for me. You know, a guy that is playing top level of football, loving life, you know, really good money. We'd all love to be in his position as a professional footballer. When I was a kid, all I wanted to be was a professional footballer. You know, you'd sort of kill to be in Danny Rose's position. He's a top team as well. He plays with his country. He's adored by so many millions of people. And he talks about he can't wait to finish football because of racism. And just hearing that,
I mean, it's
shocking.
damning.
It is shocking to hear people and footballers speak like that. But that is where we are at the moment. Well, there's a new film that's trying to sort of get off the ground at the moment, and it's by Joshua Odigie, filmmaker and entrepreneur from Leicester, East Midlands area as well. Joshua, thank you very much for joining us, mate.
Thank you for having me, guys.
No, you're very welcome. This is an interesting subject. You got in touch this week, and this was actually before the sort of Danny Rose stuff, and we just was like, we need to talk about this. And you're trying to get a film made based on a true experience. Tell us more about it.
Well, thanks again for having me, guys. Well, the film is called Singh Number 7, and it's about a young British Asian player trying to make it to the very highest level of the sport. Now, he starts off at the grassroots stage, and what he experiences is sort of institutionalized racism and a bit of cultural stigma from the side of his family and his sort of background. And the story kind of gives us a point of view experience of how young British Asians are kind of marginalized in the sports and the disadvantages they face trying to make it to the very highest level. Now, there are, without giving too much away, there are scenes in the film where you get to see that kind of racism that a lot of young minority players, especially in the UK, experience from time to time. I'm not saying this happens consistently, but it does happen, and what it does instill in them is a sense that there's no one on their side, and they feel that ultimately they won't make it to the very top, especially young British Asian players. I mean, the stats alone are just phenomenal, especially for British Asians. And for example, 70%, 79% of Asians at the grassroots level, are actually abused. With 45% experiencing it in just the last year alone. So what Singh Number 7 really tries to do is tell the story from a young British Asian hopeful's perspective, and it's an issue we really want to highlight, and it's why we're trying to get this film made.
And I think as well, it's a lot of ignorance, isn't it, Joshua? Because
Absolutely.
a lot of people would say, oh, why isn't there? And it has been asked. The question has been asked: why isn't there British Asian kids getting into football and becoming professional footballers? Why is that not happening? And I think it is the ignorance. When I talk about the ignorance, is because with what you're talking about at grassroots level, they're obviously clearly being put off.
Absolutely, and they're clearly being put off, and there's so many. A lot of people believe that there's so many issues as why it might not be happening. Some people think it might be the fact that grassroots teams and grassroots coaches might not just want to put these players on because they feel they don't want the trouble, or they know that these players will experience racism, and they don't want the uproar that might take place from that. And it just really is quite shocking that even at the highest level, it still is a problem. I mean, even there's another fascinating stat that the screenwriter of this film and the potential starring character of this film pointed out to me. His name is Pandi Chera. He's the one who wrote this amazing film, and he told me that in 146 years, no footballer of South Asian origin has ever won a senior cap for England, which is just absolutely amazing. In 146 years of this amazing game that we all love and follow so much, there hasn't been a single South Asian player appear for England. And what is really amazing is that we have to believe that in 146 years there has to have been one genuine talent among British Asian players out there that could have made it to the very top. But we've not seen that, and we believe that with this film, it'll encourage people to ask the question, why? Why hasn't this happened? And start to look into the fundamental reasons as to how we could address that at the very, very lowest level of the sport. And that's what Singh number 7 tries to do. It does take a very good grassroots perspective, but it also gives you, a personal view of how a British Asian player sees himself going forward and really trying to make it. Our character, is called Jazz in this film, and he's really at a crossroads. He's asking himself, do I just focus on what my entire culture and background wants me to do, or do I really go for this because I genuinely believe I'm talented? And we really think that is what really needs to happen. We want British Asian players to take that step forward and really believe that they can make it to the top.
It's an excellent topic to be using for a film, Josh. But interestingly, there's also been a few articles out this week about this topic. And I mean, I'm reading some of the stats back now, and it's baffling. Some of it nationally, there are only 12 South Asian players out of 3,700 players.
Yeah, it really is.
And that's across England and Wales. That's all leagues. That's incredible.
Absolutely incredible. It really is. I mean, it's the reason why I guess I was really drawn to this story. For me, as a producer, and when I met the screenwriter of this film and the actor of this film, Party Chera, and I met the rest of the team, Charles Hume and Amrik Sidhu, the reason I just wanted to collaborate with these guys is because I was just as fascinated as you guys are. The stats are just mind-blowing at how marginalized young Asian footballers are in this sport, and you have to believe there's genuine talent out there, and it's just amazing to see how so few of them make it, even to the divisional, even to the regional leagues. It really is fascinating stuff, and we believe it needs to be addressed.
Do you think it's specifically a football issue, or do you think because the director of football at FC Peterborough, which is actually something we've covered on this show briefly before with Tom, was a team that has had several cases of serious racist incidents that they've reported to the FA and have felt that their response has been underwhelming, I think is probably the nicest way.
Because our FC Peterborough are a team that is wholly
pretty much entirely Asian based,
yes. and they come up against racism pretty much week in, week out.
And they've reported 9 serious incidents to the FA, and very little's been done. But do you think this is kind of like an FA issue, or is this sort of a wider cultural issue?
I believe it is a wider cultural issue. I mean, I believe the FA could do more to obviously to create much more of a conversation and allow this issue to be much more prevalent, because we believe it can be addressed. But I do believe there is a cultural element to it. I mean, there are common stereotypes. Some people say things like Asians don't have the drive, they prefer education over sport, they might not be physically good enough. Some people say, there are other stereotypes that I just think are comical, like Asians prefer cricket to football, or they don't like physical contact. And I think those stereotypes are absolutely false. There are really, really great, fantastic Asian players out there who can who are up there with the best. But
and it's weird because that's sort of institutional racism we talk about, isn't it? When people, and I've heard that, I have to say, I've heard it, Joshua, when people go, the reason why a lot of Asian players don't play football is because they love cricket. It's like, I love cricket, but I play football. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You really want people to just get past that stigma that they have of Asian players in the game, because you really don't see that anywhere else. Yes, an Asian player can love cricket, but he can be amazing in football, and he should be given that chance to go forward if his talent shines through.
So talk about this film. Whereabouts are you up to in getting this produced and getting this out there? Okay, well, basically, what we decided to do was create a concept trailer to basically try and pitch the film to studios and distributors, and basically to raise awareness for the potential film. And that's why we went on YouTube and we created this amazing concept trailer, giving people the idea of what the story could be about. So at this point, we're just raising awareness for not just the concept trailer, but the entirety of the film as a whole, the entirety of the concept and the story as a whole. And
what we're hoping to do is then, use it as a pitch to studios and production houses, because we believe that this story has such cultural significance. We believe this is a conversation that needs to be had, and that's pretty much the stage where we're at. We want to get this out there. We want to show people that this is a very, very viable story, and it really needs to be told.
Yeah, it certainly is. It absolutely is a viable story, and it's unfortunately, again, another section really of racism. We hear about the Danny Rose situation, hear about the Raheem Sterling situation, but this is another section of that, with, again, young British Asian men and women. Let's be honest, men and women. You hear the stats. Just 12 out of over 3,500. No one getting a cap within 140 odd years. I mean, it's just bonkers in this day and age. It's a fascinating story. Check it out on YouTube. I presume if you just type in on YouTube, Singh number 7, is that right? They'll be able to see it.
Yes. Singh number 7, just type it in on YouTube. And obviously views we're doing very well for views, because people are starting to, I guess, not just obviously regular British people, but even British Asians as well. They're starting to realize this issue is something that has sort of just been in the background for so long, but they start to realize that it is actually, it's out there and it needs to be addressed. So just Singh number 7, and we're very, very enthusiastic about the momentum we're getting at the moment.
Yeah, check it out. It's only a minute long, the trailer, so it doesn't take a lot of time. But it's the trailer that kind of feeds you what the film is all about, and really hits home in that way. Josh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much for coming on and sharing that.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That was Joshua Odigie there, of course, one of the executive producers behind this Singh number 7, trying to get it off the ground, and again highlighting the fact of British Asian men, women, lack of professional footballers, from their cultures, and it is just incredible. Some of the stats that you read are incredible. Love to know your thoughts. Love to know if you are listening, if you are British Asian, man or woman, and you play football, you've given up football, you play football and you're subjected to racism, or you don't. Do you know what I mean? If you actually go, you know what, my team's great, everyone's so supportive, it's no issue at all. Love to hear all those sides. 0877 22 33 44. You can text us 81089, or you can tweet us at TS Extra Time, at Jed Mills, or at talkSPORT. Coming up, we're going to be previewing the other of the FA Cup semi-finals. It's the one that everyone's looking forward to, and they can't predict. Watford Wolves is coming up next on talkSPORT.
Extra Time on talkSPORT with Hotstar.